He's here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Barney, come on up, won't you? Along with,
I hope I'm not one of those clowns. White pedigree now.
yes, sir, he's on his way.
He didn't help right? Oh man, to help you. You ready?
Gentlemen, we have 35 minutes, so we're going to be mindful of the clock. Let me just say this. I'm picking up on what Dr. Martin said, so that we were very clear. Maybe Frank would have said it, but I'm going to get this out. She said we never get told in time. So let me help you out. What is happening as of January, the Maryland General Assembly will come in session. If Arena Players needs money, if any of these institutions need money, they should have started in September. And whoever the elected officials are representing that particular district, if they didn't tell them that, then those elected officials failed them. But at the same time, the institutions now have enough knowledge to know that they too have got to ask the elected official, him or her, what they need. And I can't give you the whole agenda right now, but there are some major changes that happened since this past session. Number one, the most powerful woman in the legislature is a woman by the name of Kathy Pugh, who's a senator from the 40th district, who's now your majority leader. That is the second most powerful position in the state senate. Number two, we have a person out of Baltimore City. For the first time since Pete Rollins was the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, the chairman of the Money Committee in the House is from Baltimore City. Her name is Maggie McIntosh, from the 43rd Legislative District. Those two people, in their respective chambers, have a lot to do with how much money comes to Baltimore City. So for residents of the 43rd District, you need to have a meeting with Maggie McIntosh, because she is the person on the House side that will decide what money comes into Baltimore City. Not your mayor, Maggie McIntosh. In the Senate, it'll be Kathy Pugh. We need to make sure you know who your players are. Now, at another time, in another situation, I'll lay more to it than just that. But that's the basic two individuals tonight. If you're interested in money coming into your nonprofits, money coming into your city, you need to make yourself acquainted with those two persons. We have an interesting session, gentlemen. 2016, 2018, and Mr. Conaway, you shocked the city the other day when you made a statement that I know you have given a lot of thought to. So I'm going to ask you, sir, as we're looking back and we're looking forward. Looking back and looking forward for 2016, 2018, what's your response to that particular statement?
I'm looking at 16 and 18.
Looking forward and looking back.
Well, first of all, let me say this. A wise old owl said on a note, the more he heard, the less he spoke. The less he spoke, the more he heard. I'll try to be like that wise old bird. The previous speaker gave you an exegesis, but I'll give you 30-second sound bites. That's what I'm used to. Anyway, there are a lot of things I want to tell you, and I know it might get you upset, but I want you to look at Hassan Giordano's website and hear my speech that I gave to the Republicans when I joined the Republican ranks a week ago. I told them that the three major things we need to look out for, and they need to do if they want to be successful in a second term, is jobs, jobs, jobs. They got it. Then Then I told them, I didn't come to you for you to help me. I came to you to help you understand what we need in our community. They got that. I also told them you need to hold on to what's happened out in Ferguson and the demonstrations that are going on around the country. If you want to be a second-term governor, better listen to that. So I didn't go there shuffling my feet and scratching my head. I told them what they needed to hear, not what they wanted to hear, but what they needed to know. Now, let's talk about the black community. The black communities around this country are very, very rich. We have over $800 billion of disposable income. Did you know that? We have more money in this country than Jews. Do we circulate the money in our community? No. Do they circulate the money in their community? Yes, 7 to 8 times. We talk about crazy stuff. The man that was here before, he talked about you love the Ravens, you love the Orioles, you love the casinos. I don't give a damn about none of the 3 of them. Because we don't get anything there. We don't get anything out of it. And I'm not just saying this because I'm here tonight, but if you listen to my radio show, I say it every time I get an opportunity. Now, why are we so happy about somebody running a touchdown? They get paid. Why do we get upset if the team loses? Whether they win or lose, they get paid. What do you get? Nothing. They even stopped the learned attorney at the casino a couple of weeks ago because they didn't have any lights on. How dare him stop one of our greatest attorneys in the state and in the country? But they did that because guess what? All of us look alike to them. We're all the same. Now look, what we need to do, and you're going to get upset with me, we need to get some money in our community. We don't have any money. The reason why we get treated like we do is because we don't have money. The other folks don't get treated that way. Do you know up in Israel, Upper Park Heights I'm talking about, if they don't get their Sun paper at 5 o'clock in the morning, somebody's head gonna roll. Where the hell is my paper? We can't even get papers delivered to us sometimes. We have to call and say, you didn't leave my paper, and I'm tired of it, and I'm not going to spend any more money with you unless you start delivering and be accurate about it. I don't know why we do that. Now I have the learned attorney here, and I have the great mortician here. And we're partners, there's no question about it. He's the last person to let you down. And guess what? And guess what? He's going to have you beautiful. But you know what happens? Somebody dies, and then they got to go around, the family got to go around and beg for money for burial. This is ridiculous. You know what? I learned a long time ago. Grandparents out of Northumberland County, Virginia. Great-grandfather owned over 100 acres of land. Okay? So it came up knowing that land is valuable, money is valuable, you have to work, got to get up off your knees and stop praying so much and do something after you pray. Right. But we got to get some money. We have to get some money. Now, Lou Fields is here, and he tried to put on this tonight, and I thought it was very nice. Last week he asked me for some money, and I turned him down. I told him he didn't have it. I said, Lou, you know, I just came out of an election, and I spent a lot of money to get on citizens, so I didn't have it. Now, listen, I lied to him, and I shouldn't have lied. I meant that I didn't have it, and I was going to give to him. But I had it. But guess what I did tonight? I gave him a check out there. Now, did all of you give him a check? No, but this is the clown politician or elected official. But I help little fields and I help people every day. You know what? I have gone to people in business and asked them, do you have a hard time? And they said, well, yeah, this and that. Is there anything I can do to help you? Well, I never thought you'd ask. Yes, I need some money. Well, tell me about it. Tell me why you do it. I do that. I help people. Larry, I'm lying, you know that. I go to them and they think I'm crazy. You ask me if I really needed something. Yeah, I do that. Okay? So we need to get together as a people and start putting our money together. We don't need to beg white people for money. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
That's right.
Put up your own money. Put up your own black money.
Come on.
You got it? Use it. Be helpful to each other. Do it. Do it. Do it. Don't talk about it. What are we going to do after Ferguson? What are we going to do after Stanton? What are we going to do after Cleveland? What are we going to do after Florida? You know what we're going to do? The same thing we've been doing. Beggars sitting on a pot of gold. Stop it. Stop it.
That's right. Tell me again, Frank.
Now you might think I'm crazy. A politician to tell me he got a little money. Yeah, I got some money because I got good sense. I'm keeping my black money for my children and grandchildren. But help somebody. Lord knows you need to help somebody. Don't laugh at somebody because you got it made. So what? Somebody helped you to make it. Somebody prayed for you. Oh, I got a grandson. He's going to be all right. Man got 6 A's. High school. 6 A's. I never got 6 A's. Remember that? And I was foolish enough to make a bet.
That's right.
I said, I would have bet you $30 a day that you don't get 6 A's. You know what he said? Daddy, Granddaddy, pay me my money. Pay me my money. And then he said, oh, incidentally, I want a car. You want to make another bet? No, enough is enough. Okay, I'm talking enough.
Now you have the opportunity here, Frank.
Well, wait a minute. Just let me get this in back.
The last one?
No, yeah, last
Yes,
one.
sir, go on.
Well, listen, I used to work across from Lexington Market. And when I would go in there, I would see the young fellas talking, and they were talking about this baseball player has this average, and this one does this, and this football player does that. So I said, well, okay. I listened, and then I stopped and I said, well, what about gross national product? Huh? What about the law of diminishing returns? Huh? Misplaced values. Now, the question is, we all know the question, but we don't know the answer. Somebody got angry with me just yesterday. They came to me and said, Frank, do you know a man with one eye named Jack? And I said, no. What's the name of the other eye? I call it unquestioned answers. I gave him the right answer, but he didn't ask the right question. There's a storm cloud forming over Earth's ocean, and it's bound to come this whole way. If your heart is not anchored in Jesus, you just may wash away. God bless you.
Make sure I'm reading this question correctly so we can stay on point here. Looking back and forward, 216, 18, and to 220. Dwight, you had the creativity a couple of years ago to sit down and talk and negotiate. This last time, to the best of my knowledge, no one sat down and negotiated for the black community with the present governors. What would be your response to the question?
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Fields, for inviting me, giving me the opportunity to talk to you this evening. I understand Wendell and another panel, which I won't be here for. I see my brother, the warrior over there. To answer your question, Larry, I did have the opportunity and was invited to sit down with the incoming governor. It was a very, very difficult decision for me not to. My wife and I discussed it for several days because they wanted me to do a commercial that I had done for Bob Early, which led up to the signing of the understanding for the African American community. I was very, very weary of being put in a position that if Mr. Brown lost, that I would be the reason for the non-election of the first African American governor. So even though I had problems with the continuation of the O'Malley administration, I had problems with the policy which Mr. Brown had joined and adhered to, I did not want to in any way be put and an obstructionist vote to an impossible opportunity, even though nothing was promised, but for a possible opportunity for the African American community. So I declined that invitation to sit down and do with Mr. Hogan what I had done with Mr. Early. Having said that, this is the first time that I've had the opportunity to address it and have a point of clarification. I don't regret it because I think that there was a lot of dynamics that were played out that we could have impacted, as Mr. Young is talking about, that we can impact in the upcoming 2016 and upcoming elections because of what's on the table in relationship to the fact that however it was orchestrated to such an extent that the local elections will come about at the same time as the national election. Now, what does that mean? All few elections, we have not had the participation of the African American community as we have seen that participation in election years of presidents. And so we can just about rest on the fact, or not rest, that might be the wrong word, but we can rely on the fact that 2016 is going to be a very vigorous election in which the African American community will have tremendous impact because there will be a presidential election and we will be at the polls both locally and nationally. So what does that mean? That it means that in the wake of what's happening in New York, in the wake of what's happening across the country, in the wake of what's happening in Ferguson, we have a tremendous opportunity not only to stimulate our electorate population, but we have a tremendous opportunity because just like they talk about the lunar lineup and the sun and stars and everything are in alignment, this is what's happening and what the possibilities are for 2016. So we have the opportunity to be and to have tremendous impact on the local and national elections across this country. All politics is local, and this point in time it's going to blend in. And so I suggest my book, Under Color of Law, which is out, raises the fact that we have seen in this nation and continue to see a retreat from the principles of equality, from the principles of justice, from the principles of opportunity that we fought so hard and died for in the 1900s. But this is not new, folks. This is the same thing historically that took place after the slaves were free and Reconstruction was set about. And under the Ku Klux Klan Act, when the President of the United States sent in troops to protect the African American newly freed slaves. This is the same repeat when the prisons were packed with African Americans and they came up with the Peonage Act to put African Americans in jail for not paying bills or because you owed. The scheme was to get the plantations back operating and they didn't have the manpower, so they had to put African American and newly freed slaves in jail to give them a bail situation if they promised to work on the plantation. And we're talking about being locked up for cents, dollars and cents, because you had to go to the grocery store and you sign a note saying, if I can get the bread, if I don't pay that 20 cents back next week, I got to go to jail. We are seeing the same repeat in history now in terms of what happened in Reconstruction in the 1800s. We're seeing that same repeat in the 1900s. That after the struggle for the civil rights and all the things, the Voting Rights Act being rolled back, affirmative action being rolled back, jobs and economy and participation in the natural economy being rolled back, everything that we thought had been promised and we had fought for in the 60s and the 70s is now being rolled back, just as though it was in Reconstruction. And so history is repeating itself. This is no accident. Disparate sentencing, mandatory sentencing, the jails being packed, no jobs, the economy being set as it is, and the Supreme Court being a conservative court now doing the same thing that the administration and the courts did back in 1860, before General Grant went into the South to try to correct this. We are watching the same thing in history repeat itself. And the new civil rights activists, or new civil rights issue, is now police doing the same thing, acting under color of law that they were allowed to do and authorized to do by law when they went to hunt the escaped slaves. And when they went to hunt the escaped convicts who were enslaved under the penal system. Not with chains, but economically. And so we as Americans, to get to the end of what I wanted to say, we as Americans, as African Americans, have to recognize that we have to in fact seize this opportunity in terms of this alignment of the stars, which I say politically, in 2016, because if we do not vote, if we do not, we have yet to see what this country can bring to bear. We have yet to see what the Supreme Court can really do. We have yet to see what a Supreme Court control, and I'm not talking about parties, I'm talking about the right. If we see a right-wing Supreme Court, and we have now a right-wing Congress, and we get a right-wing president, folks, we're in some serious, serious trouble. If we're not already in it.
We already did.
Yes, indeed. So now is the time to seize the moment. Whatever we have to do, now is the time to seize the moment. And I see another one of my good brother and attorneys have walked in here who ran a tremendous campaign in terms, ahead of his time, in terms of police brutality and so forth. And so I think it's three of us here now that will have further presentations, or they will have presentations in the evening. So thank you very much for giving me the
Our next speaker, Carlton Douglas. The state of Maryland now has a situation where the state Senate, for the first time in 20 years, Mike Miller, who's presided over that Senate for 7 terms, now cannot get a filibuster because the Republicans have increased their number to 16.
Yes, we have.
That means,
Watch out.
Yes, we have.
you want to do it? Let's go ahead. Thank you. I'm about to give him some praise for coming into place, coming out 60, but that's all right. The Republicans have gained knowledge in the Senate. They do not have the numbers just yet in the House, but they're 4 votes short. It means that if there's some action in the Senate, action in the House, and Mike Miller and Mike Bush, Mike Miller can be stopped, Bush can't. But what does that mean for the elections and black vote? Call them up. The value of black vote.
Give it to him.
First, good evening to everyone. I want to thank Lewis Fields for inviting me, and I'm quite honored to be up here with my colleagues from our show on Fridays, those of you who listen. I also have my own show on WFBR on Wednesday from 1 to 2.
They pushing your shoe, man.
I'm pushing it right now. Having been, some people claim, one of the first persons to call the elections as I saw it, before anyone else did. The question that Larry has posed is quite interesting. And I say it's quite interesting because many people in this city, and probably in the county also, don't realize that most of your municipalities in this state are Republican.
Yes.
They're not Democrat. And the 3 stronghold areas that Democrats thought they controlled, which is Baltimore City, PG County, and Montgomery. I called it months ago how the strategy of Mr. Hogan would evolve. And that was that black folks in Baltimore City don't want to vote. Black folks in PG County vote, but you got to come out in great numbers. Same thing for Montgomery. What he did is exactly what I thought he would do, and that is he went up in the county, down the eastern shore, and the western part of the county, and he talked basically to white voters who vote. And they vote for their interests. While we sit at home looking at TV, going to the liquor store as soon as it opened up at 6 o'clock in the morning, going to the lottery, playing the lottery, and the same money you put on the lottery, you can't put on an insurance policy to bury your butt when you die.
Don't do that, Carl.
And what happened was, just like I called it over the airwaves, was that the blacks in Baltimore City did not come out like they should have. The blacks in PG County, even though they came out, they did not come out in great droves to support the possible first black governor of the state. Same thing for Montgomery County. Thus, what happened? You now have a Republican governor and a black Republican lieutenant governor. Now, I've said this to Larry Young, and Larry, of course, don't want to hear this. And I can understand that because Larry's a die-hard Democrat. I am a Democrat, will be a Democrat till I die. However, if I think there's a person on the other side better for our interests, if he's Republican, I will go there.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if I think he's an independent and he's better for us, the problem with independence, and I would be an independent tomorrow if it wasn't for the fact that we are strangled to the fact that we can't vote in the primary. That we can't run in the primary, we go through a lot of hoops.
For now.
For now.
Exactly.
Hopefully we can change that.
That's right.
One of the things I've shared with my brother and my classmates, because Larry and I graduated from Emerson High School at the same time.
You look old.
Is this: if Mr. Hogan tries his very best to try to do what he can for all the people, and that includes us, okay? Because at least you got a lieutenant governor that is our persuasion. And for those of you who don't know about Mr. Rutherford, he was in the cabinet of Bob Early, and he made sure a lot of black folks got contracts.
Yes, sir.
So it ain't like we ain't got somebody in there that we can't talk to, okay? But if Mike Bush, Mike Miller, Ms. Pugh, and other Democrats, and these so-called whips that we've heard talk about these, you know, I asked Frank about this when Frank was in the House. I said, and Larry, I said, Frank and Larry, I said, did y'all have a lot of whips down there when y'all were there? And they said, first of all, we didn't have the numbers we got now. No, we did not. I said, listen, a whip to me ain't nothing but a whip. And that's because they don't put you in that position